I want to talk about the Heisman, and then I want to bring up something about Alabama. So let's get a thought. Where do we think this thing is? If you look at, let's see, let me kind of look at where this thing is at now. Bet Rivers has C.J. Stroud, Hendon Hooker, Blake at Michigan, Caleb, Stetson, Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, Drake Maine, as kind of the dark horses and the leaders in the clubhouse. When you look at the Heisman, Clint, I want to start with you. Do you look at, because you said this phrase earlier, you said Heisman moment. Like, do you look at Heisman moment? Do you look at body of work? Like, how are you evaluating this thing as CJ is the leader in the clubhouse, at least according to this?
Yeah, look, I think it's a combination of all of the above that you mentioned, but I think most importantly, you got to watch a guy that has the ability to put his team on his back and change the game and give them a chance to win a football game in the moment, not consistently and just drive the ship. And I'm talking about in the moment, monster plays, monster throws. If they're a quarterback, obviously. If it's a running back, it's more of just a consistent, just ground and pound all year long and be the reason that your team is unstoppable. So that the running back may be a little bit different, but I think when we're talking about quarterbacks, for me, it's just the ability to take your team and put them on your back in absolute crunch time and show that you got ice water in your veins, and you go make plays, whether it's with your feet or with your arm. I think it's a combination of everything you mentioned. But if I had to rank them, Yog, I guess
you get to invite 4 guys to New York City. You're giving them 4 PJs flying out to the Big Apple.
Oh, you may go straight to guys. I was just saying, like, for me, I was talking about ranking like category. To me, okay, I need to see monster moments throughout the year when the stage is the biggest, the lights are the brightest, the game's on the line, and you're the reason that your team separates and goes and wins a ball game. And so, I think I've seen that from Young. The two that I've seen it from consistently, and we've seen it from consistently, I think is Young and Hooker. Obviously, Hooker had a little bit of a hiccup this week versus Georgia. That'll hurt him. So I think it brought him back for me, he was my front runner outright. That brought him back to the crowd a little bit. Hooker and Young are the 2 top guys for me. Stroud is obviously in that conversation, and I mean, very solidly. To me, for him to be considered have a legit shot over the guys that we've mentioned, I need a moment. Like I need a moment this season of when you just put the team on your back and went and won a monster ball game. And I personally have yet to see it. There's a couple of guys to me that we haven't talked about that I think are dark horses. And you're going to like a couple of them. I think DTR at UCLA is depending on what their team does he's got a chance. I think Bo Nix. I know you have Yogi, but Bo Nix's numbers are stupid. I mean, throwing and rushing in terms. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but his rushing and passing touchdowns are up there with the best of them when you combine the 2 of them. He's got his team in the top 10. I think he's an outsider. I think the kid at TCU got his team in the top 4 right now. You look at how they're winning ball games, and you look at big moments. He's doing it with his feet and with his arm. I think now these are all obviously dark horses. I think when you talk about Hooker's still my favorite. Young and Stroud are in the mix. They're in New York, and then all these guys I'm mentioning right now are for me are guys that are dark horses or Cinderellas, if you will.
Okay, George, I know you value it.
I don't really disagree with him. Just running down this crew, love what Drake May and Coach Mack and those guys are doing. Tar Heels, that they're a next year story. Oddly enough, so is Caleb Williams and USC. USC arrived a year early. House money. Go see how much you can tear it all up. Like the expectations, like they're up there, but nobody's like, we're not holding our breath to see what USC does. It's just fun, right? Okay, so those 2 are early. Nix and DTR, there is something there. A little bit of that's that West Coast because they don't get a chance to play big prime time yet. Like their biggest games have all been day games. DTR knocked out Utah in a day game. Nix has been doing his thing in day games, and they kind of get lost. But they're right there. They're right there. Hooker, Stroud, Bryce Young. All respect to Blake Corum. It's going to be tough for him to make as much noise as the quarterbacks are. I still think Bryce Young is right there. Tim Tebow had 3 losses when he held up the Heisman Trophy. Bryce has 2.
He stole that from Darren McFadden, by the way.
But Bryce has 2 losses to 2 teams that both beat Bama, one by a point and the other one by a point. And he played fantastic in both games. He's exciting. He's your big moment Derek Jeter in the playoffs type guy. Stroud has been really consistent. I think he's got to take apart Michigan. He's going to New York. He's already got a seat there. His mom and dad, go ahead and get your suits and stuff ready. Mom, get your brooch. You're going to New York. But for him to hold this thing up, he had to have done something special against Michigan. That's how Charles Woodson brought it home. That's how Desmond brought it home. That's how all the other Buckeyes brought it home. It just goes par for the course. So Stroud's biggest moments are ahead of him. Hooker's probably his biggest moments are behind him. It's like, who can jump up to what I just jumped? He jumped high jump first, and he's just going to let everybody else see what they can do.
Let me ask you guys both a quick question. I want to give context to Bo, just to your point. 13 rushing touchdowns, most in the country. 22 passing, 14th most in the country. 35 total touchdowns, number 1 in America. Like, he's playing out of his mind, and I think he deserves a flight to New York City because he's been so consistent. Like, you look at even that first game, had 4 drives in the first half. 2 ended up in picks. Everybody's calling for him to lose his job, and the dude hasn't flinched. So to that point, here's my question for you in our last 3 minutes. Hendon Hooker, you may know this, but what if I told you he was the same age as Justin Herbert? Like, does it matter? Like, we're in this world where guys are in college forever. Like, he's 24.
Hell, I'm jealous.
22, and it feels like Bo's been in college forever. I think it's just, somebody brought it up to me as a voter. I was talking to people that have a vote on this thing, and I was like, I didn't know that.
That wouldn't affect me one bit. I think it's even harder. Look at what's our guy's name from LSU? Burrow. You were kind of on the outside at Ohio State. You leave to go find you a horse that you can really ride. First year at LSU, they were average. 500 ball club, and only threw 16 touchdowns. You know what kind of tenacity it takes to keep betting on yourself, to hang in,
totally.
to keep working.
I'm with you on that.
So Hendon Hooker to me is following that, minus all the cheetah wide receivers that Burrow had. He's the closest thing to Burrow to me. That wouldn't bother me. 24, 25, the tenacity to do it. The thing that's I think is easier is to ride into college as a 5-star, like what Arch Manning's about to do. You got all this tailwind behind you, and all you got to do is catch the right wave or two, get a couple nice wins, and you're going to find yourself in New York. The tough part is to get thrown off a horse or not even have one. Scramble, scratch, find one. Oh, hell, it's a donkey. Get off of that one. Find another horse and then find your way to the front. That to me is like Hooker's story is incredible.